At the southernmost tip of the mainland lies Australia's only island state, Tasmania. Hi, I'm Scott McGregor. Welcome to Railway Adventures Across Australia. And welcome to Devonport, Tasmania. I've just crossed Bass Strait in this ferry here on the overnight journey from Melbourne. The sea was like glass. My cabin was comfy, which is just as well because I'm a bit of a landlubber. I'm keen to explore Tasmania, not just because I know it's a beautiful place, but because I'm doing it in a very special way. The way it should be done, in my opinion. By train. We'll be covering a pretty fair slice of the island on this journey, visiting some out-of-the-way places and meeting people whose lifestyles will astound you. But first, we better make sure our transport's steamed up and ready to go. This is the Don River Railway, near Devonport. These people are one of the many keepers of Tasmania's remaining rail heritage, which is an important job because Tasmania is a bit different to the mainland states. Having already said I'm going to see Tasmania by train, I probably should tell you there's actually no passenger trains running in Tasmania anymore, which is a bit of a shame, really. But all's not lost. Steam buffs, like the Don River people, are still around to remind us of Tasmania's great rail past. As a matter of fact, through them, I'm getting a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see Tassie by rail. These locos have been prepared for a special mainline trip around the state, and I've been invited to join them. The occasion? A centenary celebration of Australia's oldest private railway, the Emu Bay Railway. This railway has been carrying ore from the West Coast mines up to Bennie on the Emu Bay line for 100 years. We'll be visiting the Emu Bay Railway ourselves a bit later, but before we set off, let's meet some of the Don River people and find out why they love this steam business so much. Anne? In particular, Anne, because a woman up in the cab of a loco is a bit of a rare thing. Firing her up?
Yes.
I heard this one's been steamed today, so I thought I'd better have a look in.
Good.
Now, the obvious question has to be, what is it about steam?
The taste.
The taste?
The smell.
Yeah, right.
And the sight.
Yeah.
And the sound, of course.
And the sound, of course.
Yeah.
That just about sums it all up. The taste of steam. I couldn't have put it better myself. Old or young, male or female, something about steam just gets into you and holds you there.
When you open your regulator, that's the first position there, like that. Up there, yep. And it will take off probably like a scalded cat with no load on it, you see.
Yeah. Even blokes like Jeff, who drove for Emu Bay Railway for 12 years, can't keep away from it. Even in his retirement.
Then you'd open it up and then pull it back to sneak away quietly.
I reckon you could drive that. I'm a rusty old bloke and I can do it, so how about if you have a go at it?
What's it?
Right.
Jeff's going to let me do something I'm always keen to do. Drive a mainline steam loco.
You don't have to open it right up to there to where I showed you.
Right.
Just do it by feel.
She's off on her own.
That's the roller bearing.
Jeez, just moves off like a sewing machine.
That's right.
Magic. So she really is a feel thing, isn't it? You've got to listen to the machine.
Yep. You got to ride them. You got to be with them.
Ride them, yeah. No wonder they call them the Iron Horse.
That's right.
You really feel like you're in the seat, don't you?
I'm starting to feel like I was born in the wrong time. What a buzz this is. What a job. Steam engine driver for the great Emu Bay Railway. Fantastic.
So we got the signal against us.
Now, put your brake on.
All right, only needs a touch then.
Better than this brake.
Beautiful. Anyway, time to hand the train back to the experts. Emu Bay Celebration Tour. Here we come. How's this for pure steam magic? 3 locomotives, triple heading it. They should get us down the line okay. We're heading for the Wild West Coast. But the first stop is Bennie, and a rendezvous with the Emu Bay Railway. I've let the centenary tour head on down the Emu Bay line without me, because I want to catch a ride on one of these ore trains. This one's just about to leave.
Hey, how's it going?
There you go, mate.
Catch a ride?
Yeah, mate, no trouble.
Excellent.
Couple of hours ride down there.
Couple of hours. Okay. Terrific.
My host for the day is driver Ron Maggs, who's been with the railway since 1958. Must have started pretty young. Oh, gee, go easy on the whistle there, mate. Usually the driver does this trip alone, but I've got a feeling Ron's enjoying having me along for the ride today. We're headed for Hellier Mine, which is just off the Emu Bay line, to pick up a load of zinc concentrate.
So how many wagons we got on the back?
20.
20. And how heavy's the train when we're all loaded up?
1,100 tonne.
Righto. Yeah, fair load. Yeah. That's 4 locos.
So the logo's about 60 tonne apiece.
Right. Any tricks with driving them?
Well, there's 6-year-old kids up here driving them.
Really?
You'll find out directly.
Will I? Is that right? I'll take you up on that.
Anytime you're ready.
I'm ready right now. No problem, mate.
On you go then. Put you to work.
Now you'll have to give us the run of the road though.
You just watch that way.
You put your foot on there,
Yeah.
hand on the brake just in case.
Oh, you press that one there.
Big bash.
Hey, I don't mind this. 2 driving offers in one day.
Oh, the sense of power.
You just keep around about 35 k's an hour.
All right, keep it down. Yeah. How many horsepower am I pulling here?
Horsepower's about 800 each.
800 each, so 4
It's
8s.
32.
3,200 horsepower.
Reckon you can handle that one?
Oh, it feels great, mate, I tell you.
I reckon you'd enjoy this job.
Yeah. Oh, I could really get the hang of this.
We're heading down to a fascinating area, not only as far as train journeys go, but in terms of how Tassie was developed last century. I'm talking about the mining industry, of course, which literally sprang up overnight down here. And believe me, this is a fine example of how railways and development went hand in hand when the country was being opened up.
Oh,
But forget all that. I'm having a great time.
Seems to be enjoying this.
all right.
Yeah,
Sorry, just had to.
Oh, you got to blow the whistle.
Feel it brewing up inside you and you just got to do it.
Ease it back a bit.
Ease it back a bit,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm getting a bit excited.
I can see that.
Righto. I just got the signal from the director, you know.
Did you? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps it's time for me to rejoin the steam trains and let Ron return to his peaceful routine. Western Tasmania is a wild and romantic place, inhabited by few people and many ghosts. Once the minerals were discovered here, in the middle of last century, the rush was on. Whole towns grew out of nowhere and just as quickly disappeared. Because the terrain was so tough, dozens of small gauge railways were built to service the towns and mines. In fact, there were probably more small, privately owned railways in this area once than anywhere else in Australia. We're going to have a look at a couple later, but in the meantime, we're headed for Queenstown. Now, it's no understatement to say that as you get closer to Queenstown, you notice a big change in the landscape. Rich green gives way to stark brown. Queenstown itself is quite a sight. These incredible hills give the place a kind of lonely frontier town feeling. Unfortunately, they're the result of some environmentally disastrous smelting practices in the past. Slowly the vegetation is growing back, though I don't think the hills will ever fully recover. Some local people like it that way.
Oh, okay.
On the hills.
Pat Hull is a miner's widow and local artist. She's been a Queenstown resident for most of her life.
And so what's your opinion about the look of Queenstown? I mean, is
I
it...
love it.
You love it?
Yes, I do.
Well, a lot of people would think that's quite odd, but why?
Where would you get colours like that? Especially at sunset, is it magnificent?
I suppose it does tell a story.
Yes, it does.
What's the story about the river?
Oh, it's much prettier than it was.
Is that right?
Yes,
Even though it's orange and ugly.
yes.
What did
yes,
it look
it's
like?
grey, sludge, thick, soupy. That was until the remediation started to stop all the sludge going down into Macquarie Harbour.
Have they given an idea of how long it will take for the river to rejuvenate?
Hundreds of years, really.
Is that right?
Yes.
I suppose you wouldn't like to see the copper smelter start up again.
Definitely not. Especially when you didn't see the sun till about 1:30 in the day.
Is that right?
And it went again about 4:30.
So was
in
there a
the winter.
smell over the town?
Oh yes, it smelled of sulphur. Acid rain, but we
Acid
didn't
rain.
know it then.
Mining still goes on in Queenstown, but it's a lot friendlier to the environment than it used to be, and much more efficient. I'm sure that if an old miner could come back from the dead and see how it's done now, he'd be shocked and terrified at these sights. But enough of now. Let's get back to the old days and those little narrow gauge trains I was talking about earlier.
Like so many railways in Tasmania, not much remains. But at the end of this little 2-foot gauge line, there's a real survivor. Meet the locomotive Wee Georgie Wood. This loco was once the only link between the township of Tulla and the rest of Tasmania. Hey, Bill.
Yes, not too bad, thanks.
Tell me about the name, Wee Georgie Wood.
It was named after an English comedian in the 1920s.
So it's like the loco's a comic character, eh?
Well, apparently he was a very small chap at the time, a small comedian, and the loco was named after him.
By the people here?
By the people here, yeah.
What's the chances of coming for a ride?
No worries at all.
Yeah,
You plumb
great.
another-
Excellent.
Come up through there.
Yeah, beauty.
The small township of Tulla was established in 1900. Wee Georgie came on the scene in 1924. This little train worked tirelessly,
bringing people and goods in and taking ore out to meet the Emu Bay line until 1964, when the highway opened and the railway became redundant. Wee Georgie was headed for the scrap heap, or ending up as a monument in a council park, but it was not to be. The thought of Tulla's little workhorse being laid to rest stirred the feelings of the local people, and the train was rescued and restored to its former glory. We're still in the wild west of Tasmania, exploring the old private railway lines that once dominated the transport industry down here. Perhaps the most amazing of all the little railways was the Apt. Now gone, it was built by the Mount Lyell Mining Company in 1894. Its purpose was to carry minerals and passengers from their mine in Queenstown to Strawn on the coast. The building of this railway is a wonderful story of courage and a struggle against impossible conditions. The train ran through some of the steepest rail inclines in the world, 1 in 16 grades in fact, and needed a special third track. The system was invented by Dr. Roman Apt for similar grades in Europe. The middle rail had 2 rows of teeth that engaged with the gear on the locomotive to help pull the train up. On its journey, the train crossed many wild creeks and rivers, including a wooden bridge 1/4 mile long. Over a century after it was built, the route the line took can still be clearly made out. Local businessman and historian Viv Crocker has researched the story about the Apt.
These people were basically finding a very large ore deposit by this time. People that had walked through this area from Strawn, the prospectors, people forging north to look for riches, had found a way through the bush and the rivers, basically. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the company decided, well, if they can get through this way, we must be able to get through another way.
For the surveyors to find a way through this bush, which has virtually remained unchanged to this day, was a feat in itself. It's pretty rough country, mate.
It's rough. You can imagine we're walking along a civilised bit. When these old guys walked in 100 years or so ago, they would have found the country like this all around them. They would have found a jungle, virtually.
Many people in 1894, including some of the surveyors working on the project and many of Mount Lyell's shareholders, believed the railway was a waste of time and couldn't be built. But the engineering principles used by the builders were right on the mark. An example of the engineers' innovation and ideas is this bridge at Tipukana. It was shipped out from London in sections, assembled on pontoons and floated into place. The engineers then sank the pontoons with sandbags and secured the bridge in place. The whole operation took 3 months. The small town of Tipukana flourished around this bridge. Today there's nothing. But once there was a wharf, a school, a police station, a hotel, and about 40 homes. So, where are we now?
We're at Rhinodita, the apex of the line. We've got Strawn behind us. Mm-hmm. We've got Queenstown in front of us. And this, of course, was the 220 metre above sea level high point of the line. There were 2 lines here.
Double track here.
Double track here. Locos would water from the overhead gantry. They had water tanks built up into the bushes up on the bank.
This is
This is the
watering.
gantry.
Right.
2 locos would frequently pull here and re-water.
So this would be a major interchange with trains coming and going and watering.
Yes.
And
There were a little small village along behind us. There were 3 little homes there where
Nothing left of that?
lived. Nothing left of it, unfortunately. The families that lived here, of course, serviced the rack and serviced the Apt.
a bit isolated for the people who are up here.
I guess it was, but of course they would have said no, they weren't, because they had small trolleys that ran frequently through the line for shopping and for school and so on. So yeah, they would say probably that they had the best service around. The trains were very reliable, and I suppose that they ran on time.
This little train really was the lifeline of the district, because at the time it was the only way in and out of the area. When the railway finally closed in 1963 and the rails were removed, one of the most precious tourist assets that Tasmania possessed was lost. Nowhere else in Australia could such a trip be made through dense and beautiful rainforests and mountainous country.
This bridge doesn't look too bad.
But recently, government finance has been made available to restore the app to its former glory. And who knows, one day the little train of the mountains, with its shrill whistle and billowing clouds of steam, will run into Strawn Station once again.
I've decided to look up Richard Dax, who's a Tasmanian trout fishing expert up at Lake Sinclair. After all this train travel, I feel like a bit of R&R. I've even decided to break the rules. I'm going to fly.
Nice calm day, everything's pretty right.
Day. Magic. Looking good.
Ah, yeah, it's a lovely spot, Scott.
Is it nice if it's calm? Is that a good sign?
Well, it makes it a bit easier to see the fish.
Ah, yes, right.
You get a lot of chop on the water and it can be very difficult to see their movement. I suppose you better put this hat on you. Can't catch fish without a hat, mate.
Gee, you looked the part with that hat too.
Yeah, well...
So when you're short of a fly, we just go to your hat, do we?
Well, something like that, or even better if there's a big one, you throw the hat at it.
Good call.
Lake Sinclair is part of the Cradle Mountain Lake Sinclair National Park. It's also World Heritage listed, and Richard Dax actually runs his trout fishing enterprise within the World Heritage listed region, which is a very rare thing indeed.
You don't fall over early in the piece, mate.
Try not to.
Yeah, you get up to a bit better going.
Bit of rock here.
Just here, yeah.
I've got my eye on that bloke over there. He seems to know what he's doing.
This looks like a good spot to have a
Meanwhile,
go, I think.
Richard's going to give me a few
Bit of
tips
clear water.
about how to use my line to the best advantage.
Get out here and we had a bit of a look at the rudimentaries. Let's see if we can just put a line out there, Scott. Yeah, that's good. Now see the way that's straightening out at the back and the front, and you've got some work into that rod tip, which is the all-important feature. Do you see the way that loop straightens out?
Yeah.
That's a must. It can't work without the loop straightening. And you must have the stop at the back and the stop at the front in order for that to happen. Put some nice, almost like a tomahawk chop. That's good.
Right.
Okay, well, this actually is an old English fly. It's a red tag, and many guides and fishermen would say that that was the best dry fly in the world. It certainly works on the Tasmanian Highlands.
What's the fish actually think it is?
Well, it thinks it's a beetle. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a brown beetle or whether it's a red beetle or whether it's
You've
a
got to
green
make
beetle.
the fly act like it's the beetle.
Exactly right. And if you can get a fish that you know where he is, and if you can get that fly down so that it's just in front of him and he hasn't got any time to make up his mind, and he just turns around and he goes, "Arr!"
In my opinion, this is as much a mind game as it is a sport of skill.
Hey, what do you think? We put one out
I don't know
there,
about
see what
clever,
we can find.
but these
Yeah, all right.
creatures are wily. And if you don't have everything absolutely right, from the casting action down to the type of fly you use, you simply will not outfox them.
Time. Look, 1, 2.
Well, I mightn't be as lucky as this bloke was, but I had a great time trying. Anyway, who said you had to catch a fish to have fun? Would have been nice though, wouldn't it?
Whoa! Did you see him?
Well, catch him.
All right, I'm trying.
Well, that's the end of my little holiday. Time to leave this idyllic area and fly back to civilization, so I can take a look at another major industry out here in the west.
Oh, yeah.
Like mining, timber's also played a big part, and over the years we've seen some great characters. Blokes like Tuts Ludby. He carves from pieces of local timber.
Up in there, look, if you look up through there, look, you can see the trees gone out at the right angle, look.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you get a walking stick out of it, right?
Ah.
Ah.
The thing is, though, Tuts doesn't actually carve much. He lets his eye and nature do the work.
See, this one's blown over, right? See? But,
Oh, yeah, there's something there, isn't there?
yeah, well, the turns are there, see?
What can you get out of this then?
You've got a bum shape, you get the middle of the body, you get a system. You can get a complete system out of it.
You think there's a person in that one?
Well, you won't get a full person, but you get a part of a person, yeah. You get, you get half a woman or half a bloke.
We'll see.
Tuts keeps his creations in his own private gallery.
Have you ever tried to create these things by...
After years in the bush, Tuts really knows his timber, and it's fascinating to hear him explain just how these weird and wonderful shapes actually came about.
Every one of these trees, look, are locals and totally independent species, right? At some stage in their life, they've all actually picked up a vine like that, right? Instead of the vines killing our trees literally go around and they choke the vines out.
Right.
Once they've shed the vine, the tree's got no option but to grow like a corkscrew. You ever play golf? Look at that.
Occasionally, yeah.
Hole in one. Have a look at that.
So what are you looking for in the bush? What do you... I mean, you've obviously got an eye for it.
No. You can't look for anything.
Right.
When you bloody will go, you've got to have a blank brain because whatever you're going to look for is not there.
Some of the pieces of wood that Tuts does find need a bit of work just to bring out their full potential. One of his favourites is this one showing his father at the races. He often gives his finished pieces a name. He calls this natural tangle Torval and Dean, after the famous ice skaters.
Let's hold it up like this so we can get the full... Yeah. Wow.
That's a good
Gee,
piece
that's
of wood.
really moving, isn't it?
That's a good piece of wood. My first two pieces.
Really?
Oh, Adam and Eve.
Right.
I don't find many men in the bush, but there's heaps of women. See? It's no good having one hand without having the other, right? Look.
Right.
Look at that. I'll spend the rest of my life looking for its mate.
Right.
Well, look at Alan Border and Big Merv. Big Merv slapped a big kiss on him every time he took a wicket. Give me a big cuddle. See? And look at that. That's a perfect piece of wood. The tree actually put the biggest limbs there, tail, two little limbs there.
But you do have an eye for being able to see the tree upside down.
Ah, yeah.
That's it.
I walk on my
your
hand.
experience from the
See
bush.
how my hands are? I walk on. You know?
Tuts never sells any of his work, and when he dies, he says he wants the whole lot burnt. Bit of a shame, I reckon. But I guess that says something about the man and his unusual sense of humour. But to really tell the timber story, we've got to get on the move again. Logging today is not carried out like it was in the old days. A lot of the work now is done by heavy machinery. More efficient, more cost-effective, they say. But the bloke I'm on my way to see now thinks a bit differently. Meet Sandy Richards. He's a man who believes that the methods of the past are worth keeping. Sandy's got a special licence from the Forestry Commission to fell a limited amount of trees. They're used by the Roads Department for repairing wooden bridges.
to the robin. He bowled.
Sandy's worked in the timber industry all his life, and he cares about the forest. In fact, one of the reasons he still uses a bullock team is because they do far less damage. He reckons the scrub grows back more quickly than when modern machinery goes through it. He does have one piece of the 20th century on hand, though.
So, Bennie, this is your one concession to modern technology, this chainsaw?
That's it, yeah.
And you've got the bullocks tethered just in case they take off.
You got the handbrake on, nailed them back.
Sandy's first job on the tree is to cut a wedge in one side of it, so it'll fall in the right direction. This tree, by the way, is about 60 years old. We're in regrowth forest that's been logged before.
And what you've done here is actually aim it, have you?
Yep, well, look,
You're doing a measure. What's the technique here?
well, you hand in each corner, and you look up the tree, and you should go just over that little pole there.
So you can sight it.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Yep.
Right. Oh, I see. Spot on.
Should be.
Then the job is done. This is a tricky time, actually, because no amount of skill can really predict which way the tree will kick back when it falls.
Whoa, the ground shook.
Chopping her down is one thing. Getting the tree out of the forest is another. That's where the bullocks come in.
Come up, it's Spark, Bluey. No, Nimble, Ebola.
The lingo sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? The bullocks understand it, though, and that's all that matters. They each have their own name, like Bluey, Dart, Spark, Nimble, Bowler, and they certainly know when Sandy's talking directly to them. Although he put it down where he wanted it to go, the log still can't be pulled out in one straight action by the bullocks. A little skillful manipulation is required here.
Whoa, way, whoop, way. Whoa, way, whoa. Whoop, it will dog him there and he'll come properly.
He's done that before.
With a diesel tractor, this job would be a cinch. Just push everything out of the way. But Sandy reckons this is a better way, and I certainly agree with him.
Come here, Nimble.
Finally, the log's free, and we're away.
Get over, Devon. Devon! You're going to push up on your arm. Whoa, wait.
He did well. Got him round the corner.
This fella
Brilliant.
wasn't pulling, then you had to push him up. Bluey, Spark, Nimble.
Sandy makes it all look so easy. But things don't always go to plan, and accidents do happen.
Whoa,
The dangerous bit is always the top of the slope.
But one day I was coming down a hill, steep hill, and just come over a bank like that, and real steep, and the chain broke. And their brother said, sang out to me to stop the bullocks, and I stopped him just as he was on the balance. If he'd went, he'd killed a lot of them because he was a big log. But he's a bigger log than this fella here what was pulling. Oh. A big, about 20 foot long, and bigger than that.
You never lost a bullock?
No, I never lost any. Yee-bow! You're the dart, you're the robin!
Sandy reckons he's the last of the old bullock drivers who actually uses a team on a full-time commercial basis like this.
Gee back! You're the bowler.
When he goes, a lot of these skills will disappear with him, and that's a shame.
Gee, whoop back, gee back.
Gee, they're off, aren't they?
They're off, yeah.
They're keen to go home, mate. They can sense a feed happening, can't they?
I can't help feeling what a privilege it is to meet Sandy and his team. Sights like this seem to leap right out of the past, don't they? Just like something from an early bush painting.
Have you ever wondered what a guard does at the end of the train up here? Come and have a look. He cooks the bacon and eggs, of course. Great job, Noel.
Going well.
Good on you.
Yep, they're cooked. They're cooked.
Smells great, mate. We're into it.
While Noel and I are enjoying our bacon and eggs, we pass through the beautiful northern Midlands, looking as much like one of the English home counties as I've ever seen. We're heading south towards Port Arthur and the site of the very first passenger railway in Australia. But before we do that, I'm going to pop in and see a couple of mates who live near here. This is Bushmill, a wonderful turn-of-the-century recreation of a timber mill and bush settlement. It's just down the road from Port Arthur. Felix Schwertweger is in charge of the beautifully restored machine, with the original boiler from 1912. It's quite an engineering feat, not a single weld, all riveted, and there's even some bits of an old car found in a tip. The smell of coal smoke and wood fires hangs nostalgically in the air here. But it's just another cutting day at the mill. Hopefully it isn't the turn of this big log waiting outside, because I've agreed to try my hand at milling the timber, and I'm looking forward to learning just how it's done here at Bushmill.
Felix, is it?
Yeah.
Scott McGregor.
Glad to meet you, Scott.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, I'm here to do my day's work.
All right, I'll put your bag over here.
All right. So, what do we need?
You'll need an apron.
Right. What about my hat?
Oh, no, keep your hat on, otherwise it'll be full of sawdust.
All right. And gloves.
There are your gloves up there. You
Righto.
need gloves on, otherwise your hands will be full of splinters.
So, what are we cutting today?
Tassie oak.
Good old Tassie oak.
Yes.
Hard as nails.
My word.
Yeah.
Hard, all right.
Cutting through the logs is no trouble for the saw, but I'm having to learn to guide the wood, supporting it on the trolley so it all works out as planned.
And when you look at your log or your flitch, you know exactly where to put your first cut to get what you want to get out of that flitch. So you just don't cut them anywhere.
Felix is a good and patient teacher. He's been in sawmills since he left school at 13, and his father was a sawmiller before him.
How are we going, Felix?
Good. Going well, Scott.
Once the logs are sectioned, we can move on to the next stage, cutting the finished planks.
Well, what we're doing now, Scott, we're cutting a piece of 3x2 or 75 by 50 in metric. And the main thing is to keep it on gauge, otherwise you have a thin end, you see.
So, Felix, how'd they go?
Oh, you're going all right, Scott.
Yeah?
But of course, you don't learn that in 5 minutes.
No, that's true.
To be a real good tailor out, then first you learn the basics to be careful, that's the main ones. Then to cut straight timber. Builders don't like bent timber.
No.
They complain very quick.
Oh, well, I'm glad to pitch in when I can, mate.
Yes, yeah. You'll be one of the long line of Tasmanian sawmills
Yeah.
before you finish here.
Give me a yell when you've got a next big order and I'll be down here like a flash.
Very good. We'll only be too happy to have you in.
Is that right, Felix? Cheers, mate. Yeah.
Good.
And you didn't think I'd only come to Bushmill to work with wood, did you? I'm also here to see this great little railway, and it's something really special. There's no doubt about it. It's a splendid ride for the visitors. But there's one feature of the line that I want to see in particular. The loco. A 1/3 replica of a Garrett steam engine.
I tell you, mate, this is it.
That's right.
It was built by a bunch of incredibly dedicated steam buffs, including my mate here, Alistair Matheson.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
there we
Now,
are.
this is a beautiful piece of engineering.
Well, yes, we think it is. It's certainly something very, very special.
This builder's plate tells a tale here, Alistair.
Yes, it does.
Bushmill Railway Workshops. I mean, this is built here then.
Yes, it was. It was all built here, in fact, in a converted toilet block.
Oh, yes.
Well, we couldn't afford a proper workshop, so we bought this old toilet block off a building site for $25. Put all the lathes and everything in it, and away we went.
Together with engineer Lester Jones, it took 3 years to build the engine, with many of the parts being built by hand.
A lot of the parts are fabricated. They're not cast, you see, as they would have been in the original.
Like we're
day.
talking rivets all along
Oh,
here?
absolutely. All the rivets, all hand done. Just a hammer and an oxy torch, you know, riveted all by hand. Oh, yeah, amazing, amazing.
Nice little touches like this original lamp here. Now
That's right. That's
you
off
didn't
an-
make that one though.
No,
did you?
bought that at a market. It just happened to pop up there off an old A model Ford. Fantastic, original
right,
lamps.
yeah, good
The old lamps, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The whistle looks fairly authentic. What's the story
Well,
there?
yeah, no, that actually is authentic. We didn't make that. That is an authentic Bay of Peacock whistle.
Oh, okay, a standard whistle of the day or something.
Yeah, this one came off a locomotive in Queensland.
What, a cane train or something, yeah?
Yeah, I think it was a sugar cane train. Yeah, a chap just came in one day and he said, I thought you might like this whistle. I said, thank you very much. Put on my new train.
A few of the trims might have come from different places, but there's no doubting the pedigree of this loco. She was built from original Garrett designs, first drawn up in 1910. And as far as Alistair's concerned, the Garrett has everything: power, reliability, and the ability to handle the tight curves on this steep little line. But I reckon he's forgetting one other quality: sheer beauty. The sight of this perfect little loco working its way through the treetops across this old trestle bridge is one to behold, don't you think? Anyway, time we moved on down the road. Port Arthur. This place would have to be the most recognised symbol of our convict past. When Governor George Arthur opened the penal settlement in 1830, he decreed that prisoners should undertake the most unceasing labour with the most harassing vigilance. The place certainly lived up to that decree in its time as a penal colony, right up until the last cell door closed in 1877. We're intrigued by the misery our forebears suffered here. Some say that out of this convict system grew some of the Australian values we now hold dear.
Such as ambivalence to authority, quest for freedom, and our views on mateship.
Port Arthur has also served as a source of inspiration for many artists and writers over the years. For example, in 1927, Marcus Clarke's novel, For the Term of His Natural Life, became one of Australia's earliest feature films. But my reason for coming to Port Arthur is to search for a railway, or what's left of it. Because as I said earlier, Port Arthur is actually the birthplace of rail in Australia. Built in 1836, it was a convict railway that ran from Norfolk Bay down to Long Bay. Liz Patel, a guide from Port Arthur, has studied its history.
It operated from this point here, out here at Norfolk Bay, and was used to carry coal equipment and people through to Port Arthur on the southern end of the peninsula.
So it was like a convenient way to take the stuff across the land?
It certainly was. It was a very short way. It only took about 30 to 45 minutes for convicts to push those wagons across the railway.
So convict powered?
It's convict locomotion, we like to call it. Yes.
Good one.
There's very little left to see of the old line, but this scene, taken from the term of his natural life, gives you some idea of what it looked like.
So, Liz, we're actually walking along the ditch beside the formation here on my right-hand side.
Yes, we are. The railway was just up on this mound up here.
Oh, right. So this is it? And this is roughly the width?
Yes.
Here we are.
Yes.
So the
yes,
convicts would have been up here like this, pushing the thing along?
Yes,
would they,
certainly.
or?
Not one on each side, of course.
So where you are and where I am here?
Yep. And two behind us again at the back of the wagon.
4 convicts per wagon?
Yes.
Pushing like with all their might?
Yes, yep.
Some of the hills the convicts had to push the wagons up were seriously steep. Of course, it was much easier going down, but not quite as safe for the passengers.
It is. Convicts had to counterbalance as they went round the corners, leaning out, make sure that the carriage didn't topple, but occasionally it did, and accidents did happen.
Right.
And of course it was the officials that got tipped. And then when the convicts came up to brush and pick them up and brush them right down nice and neat, they often picked their pockets.
Okay.
They did quite well. But here we can see some of the formation.
The rocks are all laid out as if it...
Yep, and you can even see the gaps possibly where they actually had the sleepers going across.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's where one of the sleepers would have been?
Yep, that would have been where one of the sleepers were. In there.
At Long Bay lies the most visible remnant of the line, the remains of the old stone jetty. If you imagine the scene hard enough, you can just about see the whaleboats waiting here to take the freight and passengers down the coast to Port Arthur. What an intriguing chapter in our rail history.
See for miles on a day like today. Why is it that people always wave back to somebody on a train? It's because they want to be there themselves, I guess.
We're heading back to Don River now. Our Emu Bay centenary steam celebration is just about over. Relaxing in this carriage, looking out at the passing countryside, conjures up some really evocative images for me.
I can sense blokes going off to war, kids going off to boarding school for the first time. I can see a furtive glance across the carriage that ended in love. All this and more. It's what makes it so romantic for us. What is it about trains? Why do most people like trains and some people love them? Is it this gentle rocking motion? Is it this view from this elevated picture window here? Is it the dulcet tones of a steam locomotive up the front? I reckon it's all of these things and more. For me, it's one of the most civilised, relaxing ways to travel across the land. Well, that's Tasmania, as far as this railway adventure is concerned. I hope you've enjoyed coming with me to the places we've seen and meeting the characters we found at the end of the line. There's definitely an argument to be had for bringing passenger trains back, not just here in Tasmania, but all over Australia. And as you can see, it's happening. You know how I feel. There could be no better way to see this great country of ours than from the window of a train. See you next time soon.